Hello everybody, I am Zenith Rule, and welcome back to the Disney Debate, where we talk about Disney films, Disney products, and other Disney things. However, we are at the final episode of Elseworld Month. In Elseworld Month, we are talking about films that are based on Disney franchises. They don't necessarily have to be Disney, but they have to have a Disney connection in there somewhere. And this is one that was actually suggested last, if I recall. I had been asking people, okay, so we have Huntsman, Winter's War, we have Snow White, we have Mirror Mirror, and we didn't have a fourth film. And so I kept asking, and I believe it was Doug who came up with Happily Ever After.
Well, Doug and me.
Doug and Kat, yes. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting because I've never heard of this film. I've never come across this until Kat reminded me that I actually have heard of this. This is one that Kat and our special guest today actually started to do a review on way back when, and they had to use our hotel room to film this in. So I was actually kind of an extra in that video that never quite materialized, but
you weren't only an extra, you had a cameo, if I recall, like a very brief one.
it was a very brief cameo, and it was fun, and I was reminded, oh yeah, that's what that was, but I never actually saw the film. So today we're talking about Happily Ever After, and before we say what this film is all about, I'm going to introduce, first of all, our special guest, Georgia, another member of the crazy crew, the people who have stuck with me through thick and thin through this crazy review game. How's it going, Georgia?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Z. It's been good. Actually, this weekend's been a little busy, but I've been all right. I've been excited to be here. I sort of helped with the Disney debate in the beginning, like helping watch with some of the earlier stuff. So it's exciting to finally make it on. Hi, guys.
What's up?
What's up?
Nothing. I went by the handle Gigi when we were reviewing, so if you ever want to look me up, I'm not really doing much of it anymore, but I'm doing adult stuff. If you're ever interested.
Not that kind of stuff.
Shut up! No!
Darn.
No! What? No! No, I meant like an adult job, like, medical coding.
So yeah, Georgia's been around since the very beginning when we first formed our little gang, and I proposed the idea of the Disney debate, and it's nice to have you on. I'm glad to have you on as a guest. I believe there are a few episodes that other members of Crazy Crew have asked to be on. They asked me to be on it like ages ago, so this is stuff that we have planned in advance. But Georgia was a shoo-in for this episode because of the review and because I wanted to bring her on to something. So welcome to the podcast. I also have, as usual, my partners in crime, my people who I always go to whenever I need stuff. First of all, to my left in some direction, Y2 Staller. How's it going, Eric?
It's going pretty good. It's been a crazy weekend, but we are back. I'm excited because we're doing like 2 recordings over the next 2 days. We got this one, and then we're doing the DuckTales one, which I'm actually really excited to talk about, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that another time. But this movie, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Also, to my right, in some dimension of time and space, is my good friend and co-host, Kat Macberrie. How are you doing, Kat?
I am excited. Very
excited.
I am very excited to do this because this is a film I grew up with. I know it by heart, and Like, I am such a hardcore fan that Sunday I went out and I got horribly sunburned so I could look just like one of the characters in the film.
Oh my god, that's so fabulous. Oh my god. Actually, side note, you guys should, if you make the cover art, you should make her sunburn for it.
Oh god.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I actually do have a really bad sunburn. Yeah. Tip to those who, if you're into watching football live, don't sit in the part of the stadium where the sun always beats down, because it's.
For sunscreen.
Well, I didn't know where I was sitting.
Wow.
But yeah, I am excited for this, like, because this was my pick, and I knew for a fact that I wouldn't hate this, and I still don't hate it. So, and and of course we have Georgia joining us. So, yay!
Yeah. No, I am the same. I love this movie. I grew up with it. The first time I met Malcolm McDowell, I told him about it, how much I loved his Lord Malice. He had no idea what I was talking about. I'm not kidding. Eric, you were there. Eric was there for that. I think he can attest.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was, yeah.
I imagine he must have done like a million voice things and just forgot about it. So.
Well, and he used to do drugs, but yeah, no, it's a bunch of those things. But anyway, I love this movie. I know it's flawed, but I love this movie.
So, to introduce this film, because we haven't actually talked about what Happily Ever After is, I'm going to give a little brief summary, but Kat's going to kind of delve into a more detailed thing, because she and Georgia know a little bit more than I do, but Happily Ever After is actually a unofficial direct sequel to the Disney Snow White.
Unofficial with air quotes.
Air quotes. I say unofficial because, like, this was not done by Disney. This was not done by anything remotely close to Disney. This was done by the studio that brought us He-Man. Yes, He-Man. Yeah.
By the power of He-Man.
Prince Adam was the one who found Snow White and woke her.
Yeah, so it was interesting because you have the studio that brought us He-Man giving us their take on what happened after Snow White, and it's so interesting with that cheesy animated style. And they tried to tell us a better story. Anyway, Kat, why don't you dive in and give us a little bit of a rundown of Happily Ever After?
With pleasure. This was done by a Filmation Associates animation studio. They are called Kel Air Productions. They no longer exist. And unfortunately, it is because of this movie. Yeah, so this studio, they had the idea that they were going to make a whole bunch of unofficial sequels to the Disney movies, like starting with Snow White. Unfortunately, yeah, that didn't pan out too well for a number of reasons. Well, first of all, the original title of this film wasn't Happily Ever After. It was actually Snow White and the Land of Doom. And
that's a much better name.
I know, right? Especially the way they say it in the movie, in the realm of doom. So
Doom.
Snow White in the realm of doom.
Actually, no, if you're going to do it, you have to say it the way he said it. Snow White. The Land of Doom.
Yeah. Yes, but yeah, so the reason that happened was because unfortunately the timing of this movie was rather bad, because it came out around the same time they were re-airing the original Snow White from Disney. So you can imagine how that might have caused a little confusion there.
I actually remember when they put Snow White back in theaters for a little bit. That was actually the first time I saw Snow White. This was like in the, I think this was like in the, this was like
1990,
what,
1992, around that time.
Yeah, it was around that time. It was weird.
Yeah, and Yeah, and it didn't help matters, and especially, and the thing is, this wasn't like one of those like unknown underground things. They actually did put a lot into their marketing. Like they actually they made toys, they made dolls of the characters, they had stickers.
I remember the dolls.
Yeah, they even had a tie-in with the Chiquita, the banana company. So quite a bit of marketing actually went into this, and they were actually capitalizing on this to be a really successful film, like their big hit, so they can continue to make more sequels.
Yeah, not to mention they had an relatively all-star cast: Ed Asner, Phyllis Diller, Malcolm McDowell.
Oh yeah, they went all out for voice actors. Yeah, so they banked on this a lot, but unfortunately, it didn't do well. And the additional lawsuit that Disney brought on them, unfortunately, pretty much bankrupted the company, which closed 3 months after the movie aired. So, yeah, so it's a rather sad end for the company and like the legacy of this movie. Pretty much the only like bank they could make from it was like the VHS releases, which I remember owning. I don't have any more, but yeah,
I have it.
yeah, that's the history of Happily Ever After. Rather, it was an intriguing notion. It's funny because they actually started doing this before Disney started doing their straight to DVD things, like 10 years earlier when you think about it. But yeah, it's a shame that this didn't pan out that well, because honestly, this film is not that bad, and I've seen worse, like Snow White sequels.
Yeah, it is not as bad as people say it is. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not, the most inventive thing, but it's not that terrible, considering other Disney sequels that exist more now.
Considering the films that we have watched at your house at our bad movie parties.
Oh my god!
This is not that bad. Now, it's kind of a shame because, like, this isn't the best animation for a film. I mean, again, it's He-Man, but...
Yeah, like the prince, who doesn't have a name in this movie, by the way. He's just the prince. He has the body, sort of He-Man, not like the legs.
The animation is probably the worst part, but... Like, when you take that in stride, if you, when you put that aside and say, all right, that was the time, this was a pretty, I mean, they put money into it, but they probably didn't put as much into the animation as the voice acting. When you consider the voice cast that they have, when you consider, like, a lot of the stuff going behind it, like, this isn't that bad of a film, and there's a lot of points that really, really work. So... let's talk about the story. Let's talk about this plot. The plot is immediately after Snow White. Like not like immediately, but this is after the first film. This is, this is where you have Snow White and you have the prince already together, and suddenly out of nowhere a new villain emerges. We have this castle full of gremlins come in, and apparently these people worked for the evil queen. I have no idea where they were in the original film. They weren't actually there, apparently, or whatever. But you have these creatures just partying, and Lord Malice, this new villain, appears, who wants to usurp the evil queen, and so he is now the evil. He is the prime evil.
Well, he doesn't want to usurp. Well, not exactly. He's looking for his sister, 'cause that's how he says it. He says everything so slimy because he's literally green and looks like he's been dead. But anyway, no, he finds out that the queen was killed, and he wants vengeance.
Vengeance.
Yes, a direct quote.
Yeah, I love Lord Malice because he is like such a stereotype, but he's just so he's so charismatic and takes his stereotypicalness like to the extreme. It's impossible not to enjoy him.
I know, right? And that's why it was perfect they got Malcolm McDowell. He was like perfect to do that because he's, I guess, sometimes can do that. But it's great. I love it. And he can turn into a dragon, and he can shoot lasers out of his eyes that can do a variety of things.
Lord Malice is an interesting villain. Like, compare it to the Evil Queen. The Evil Queen, when you think about it, is a very basic version of Maleficent. Like, it's kind of like, okay, they wanted this evil person, but she was petty, and a lot of her character was told through the animation. So that's really where a lot of that went through. But eventually led to Maleficent, where it was a much better villain. But if you compare Lord Malice to the Evil Queen, Lord Malice is more fun to watch, I think, because he is cheesy, yes, but he's so over the top with his declarations.
Yeah.
And he proves throughout the entire thing that he is legitimately evil and he's willing to do whatever. It's just, he's an interesting character. Eric, what do you think of Lord Malice?
I do like him. He is. I do like interesting villains. Like, even if the movie is not also great, but if like the villain itself has like has a great presence, then that's something worth enjoying. And this is definitely one of. This is like, it's funny because we watched Snow White and the Huntsman, which also featured an over the top villain, and asking, "Where is my brother?" And now we gone from another movie with another over-the-top villain asking about their sister! It's always the brother-sister dynamic. I don't know.
Everybody just loves their siblings!
Well, I do, but...
Why are we all shouting? I don't know.
Loud noises!
Loud noises!
Because that's what Lord Malice does!
But I like him being sinister. Like, he wants to seek revenge on Snow White and the prince, and he goes out and he does it. Like, he doesn't send out minions or whatever. He just goes out and does it. He just turns into a dragon and goes out and finds them.
Both. He does send minions first. He sends those really awesome looking wolves with like rhino horns. They're badass looking, actually. For a kid's cartoon, they're pretty badass.
That's right. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, to be fair, he does that once. For the most part, he does go in and tries to seize Snow White for himself.
Yeah, that's true.
He definitely does have power, and he uses his power readily. Like, if you compare him to the Evil Queen, he uses his power more immediately than the Queen does. The Queen orders everyone to do everything, but the moment his henchmen betray him, he's like, no, I'm doing this myself, and he goes and he does it with his magic power.
I gotta admit, that is one nice refreshing thing. It's that his henchmen fuck up once and he's like, nope, you're done, I'm doing this. It's not all like, oh, you messed up, you betrayed me, but I'll still give you another chance. It's like, no.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that being said, though, he still doesn't refrain from falling into typical villain tropes, because, yeah, while he is over the top and charismatic and everything, he's still into doing things in a rather slow, torturous fashion. Because, yeah,
he doesn't have time for that. He's got, yelling and scheming to do and flying around. He can
What?
fly.
I'm just going to leave them in an easily escapable death trap. What's wrong with that?
Exactly.
It's just we established he has like these laser eyes that are actually quite deadly, but he doesn't really use them the way he should. Like there are so many times where he could have easily killed off like the characters right then and there, but he doesn't. He just uses it to either stun or to paralyze them or whatever, but he doesn't actually kill them. Instead, he's like, no, I'm going to kill you this way in a very long, overdramatic fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of understand that for doing that to Snow White, because that's who he's been, doing all of this scheming and, evilness for, to stop her. But for, Scowl, that was kind of stupid, but I don't know.
Like, he has that menace factor, and when he turns into a dragon, but then he turns into a dragon and doesn't do anything with, his claws or fangs. He doesn't, rip them to shreds. So, yeah, he does kind of fall into the trappings of Maybe they wanted to make it a little bit more kid-friendly or something like that, but
That's probably it, yeah.
yeah, he doesn't actually like go out and hey, I have a gun. I have a gun right here. Boom, done.
Well, there wouldn't be much of a movie, would there?
I will point out one last thing before we move on, is that when, like, watching this again, now that I really think about it, he doesn't really have a legit reason to kill Snow White, because when he asked the mirror, oh, how did she die? He said, oh, she met her end trying to kill Snow White. It's like, well, he didn't say she actually killed the queen. It's just the queen fucked up while she was trying to kill her and killed herself as a result. So how is that Snow White's fault?
Because the Kool-Aid Man is red.
Reasons. Because of the reason.
Yeah, like, he doesn't really have a legitimate stake aside from the fact that his sister is dead, although he was never mentioned in the first one, so we didn't have a build-up to that.
You know what the reason is? You know what? I just figured out. It's because she's prettier than him.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he couldn't deal with that. No one's prettier than me.
Pretty much, yeah. When they show him Snow White and the Prince, and he has like this such hatred in his voice. He's like, "Aren't they the lovely couple?"
I know, and like again, they don't call the Prince doesn't have a name. They just call him the Prince. But eventually, he starts calling him, her handsome prince.
It's like someone has a crush.
And then I'll make you ugly and look like Orko with legs.
So Lord Malice comes in. He's like, all right, so my sister is dead. I'm going to take my revenge. But first, he turns to his sidekicks. And we should really talk about them because they really don't do much, but they're here for some reason. They have an owl and a bat. And now the owl, as he states in his song, is bad. He's evil and he smokes a cigar and he's so edgy. He's the edgelord. He's the edgiest. But at the end of the film, he turns good. Like the bat doesn't really do much of anything. He's just like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" Like throughout most of the film, the bat just shows up, says a few words, and then leaves. These two henchmen don't really do much. The owl...
Well, they're there because it's a kid's movie.
They're there because it's a kid's movie, but even as kids' movies goes, like, they don't do anything. The owl goes and is supposed to kill Snow White, but ends up helping her. Even though he has this entire villain song where he raps about how bad he is. Now we need to have a running tally because there's a bunch of rapping animals in kids' films, apparently. We had the...
Oh my god.
There's the rapping dog from the Titanic movies. There's the rapping kangaroo in Kangaroo Jack. There's the rapping Cheshire Cat in the Alice in Wonderland. I'm not sure which version it is.
Why
but
is this a thing?
I don't know why it's a thing, but
Why?
now we have a rapping owl, and he raps about how bad he is. And I know this is the most horrible thing ever. I love it. Like, I don't legit love it, but like whenever it happens, I was just laughing my ass off at how bad this was. Like, this is legitimately, like, it's bad. It's really bad. It's like Michael Jackson bad.
Yeah, this is so bad. Michael Jackson rose from his grave just to slap this guy with a lawsuit. No, I shit you not, because that's the whole thing. Like, the whole song... That's the thing. The whole song feels like it's supposed to be like a really bad rap version of, Michael Jackson's Bad. In fact, at one point, he even does like a mini version of the moonwalk. I'm like, wow. It's like somebody from Jackson's like estate's gonna sue somebody.
The entire time smoking the cigar and coughing and all this other stuff, and it's just like he's built up to be this bad henchman, like this evil sidekick. But what does he actually do throughout the film? Like, aside from the attempted murder of Snow White once.
Well, I mean, he's trying to do his henchman duty and take her down. The problem is he keeps messing up. And I think that's kind of the whole point of his character, is that he's supposed to be someone who thinks he's bad, but is shown that, no, he's just bad. In fact, the entire shtick between him and Batso is their use of the word bad, because Scal uses bad in, like, the figurative sense. It says, oh, he's bad, he's cool, he's macho, and, he's evil. Whereas Batso uses bad in the literal sense by saying, no, you're just bad, you're awful, you're terrible, you suck. And it's kind of used as, like, banter and jokes between them. But, like, you can honestly, if you ever took, like, had a drinking game done to this, you could easily get drunk off of how many times they say the word bad in this film.
Oh God, I don't think I would recommend that. That's no, that's a little dangerous.
No.
Eric, what do you think about this rapping owl and the bat?
I just got one thing to say about rapping Ed Asner. Cut it out. Anybody who gets that reference.
Right.
Anyway, but it's awkward. It's really bad. I'm trying to figure out what was worse, the rapping dog from the animated Titanic or this one. Although I'm betting that the Titanic one is worse. But it's just like it kind of feels a little out of place. In a way.
Yeah, the timing of the song is absolutely awful, because I kind of know the reason why they did it, but, like, the setup to it is that Lord Malice has entered the palace. He finds out what happens to his sister. He declares vengeance, and he takes off to go find her. And as soon as he leaves, the owl starts rapping about how bad he is. It's like it doesn't fit into anything or to any context whatsoever. And then it, like, ends with him just going off to go join Lord Malice and capturing Snow White. It's like I feel like they put that there just to sort of alleviate the levity from, like, Malice's presence. Like, he's so scary and so, like, evil. Like, they don't want to scare the kids too bad, so it's like, oh, here's a rapping owl.
Oh my God, that's it.
Yeah.
That has to be it, because I was gonna say all of this, those characters, everything they do, it's because this is a kids movie. That is the literal only reason. But that's probably why they put in the rap, and also because they figured we were going to do it anyway, but the sooner we do it, the better, because we got to get through our other songs.
Yeah, because it feels like this should have been done, like, as soon as Scal was introduced, to give a more overall, insight into his character. But
then the movie would start with a rap, and that sounds... You can't start the movie with a rap. That's dangerous. That's bad.
I feel like it needed an old-fashioned, villain song, like that kind of thing. And that's, I think, the one thing that was missing from this. Like, I know there's other songs in this movie, but, like, that was the one thing that was missing, was an old-fashioned villain song, not a rapping owl,
But that is the villain song. The rap was the villain song.
I know, but eh.
Except it wasn't done by the villain. I would like to have seen Lord Malice actually sing something.
Oh my God.
In that devilishly snake-like voice of his.
I can't even imagine what that would even sound like. I don't know if he can sing. I might have to get someone else to do it.
Yeah, I never heard Malcolm McDowell sing, at least not to my knowledge. That would be pretty interesting.
I don't think he can, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
How ironic. He has such a great speaking voice, but his singing voice is like crap. So yeah, Malice goes after Snow White and her prince, manages to capture her. Prince gives chase, and of course Scal and Batso give chase as well. But their bumblingness unfortunately causes Snow White to escape, but Malice manages to capture the prince, and he renders him unconscious and says he has something very special planned for him, which, we'll find out with much later. I want to say there is one part during this whole chase sequence. It's actually my favorite part of the movie. It's when Scal is going in to attack the prince, and his whole idea of attacking is he flies alongside him and says, "Hey, I'm bad," and he slams right into a tree. That is my favorite part of the film right there, because it is
he probably had more to his plan, but he just got distracted by a tree to the face.
goes in, like, who goes to attack and says, hey, I'm bad?
I have to explain to you how bad I am. It's part of my evil shtick. God.
There you go.
Yeah, so Snow White escapes. She goes into the woods. She happens to come across the mine where the dwarves worked. So, of course, she knows where she is, and she manages to find her way to the cottage, but she passes out from exhaustion before going inside.
Right at the front door. It's pretty funny. She's just like, I reached the doorknob. I can't go on. Oh.
I've gotten this far, but,
If only I had enough strength to open the door.
And inside, she finds not the 7 dwarves, but the dwarfels. Female dwarves who have magical properties and are they're basically daughters of Mother Nature. Because why not?
And they're the 7 dwarves' cousins.
Of course.
Yeah, like they say that the dwarves moved to a better mine that had better gold, so the dwarfels moved in, and I both like and don't like the dwarfels. Like, they have good points to them, but I think the thing that I don't like is how more stereotypical they are than the 7 dwarves. Like, the 7 dwarves each have personalities based on their names. You know, Grumpy is grumpy and stuff like that. Well, these dwarfels have personalities based on the elements that they control. You have Sunburn, who is always angry and colored completely bright red, and then you have Moonbeam, I believe, who's in charge of the moon, and she's always asleep. And, like, they have very stereotypical personalities, and even more so than the original dwarves, I feel like they're kind of a little bit too stereotypical, if that makes sense.
I think that's giving them too much credit because, I mean, well, granted, it's been a long time since I watched the original, but some of them have no personalities.
Yeah, some of them don't have any personalities and are quite useless.
But, yeah, some of them aren't really, but the other thing, too, is that some of them aren't really given a chance to have a personality because they're useless or because, yeah, they just, I don't know, didn't feel like writing about them.
Some of them you wonder why they bring them along. Like, there's a person who's in charge of the animals, Squirrel Girl.
That's not her name.
I know that's not her name, but she's basically unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and but she barely does anything. You'd think she'd sick her critters on evil minions, but she doesn't do anything.
Well, I think there was something about that. She just realizes that they're, demon creatures or monster creatures. If anything, if you want to talk, I love it. I'm one of the people who love it the most, yet I'm giving it the most shit. But anyway, if you want to talk useless, it should probably be the Zsa Zsa Gabor one, the one who's in charge of the flowers, because they go to, near the Mountain of Doom. And what does she do? She makes some flowers show up, and Snow White literally says to her face, I don't think your magic is going to be helpful here.
So why did they bring her along? You got Zsa Zsa Gabor to be in this role, and you don't give her anything. Like, literally, they don't give her anything to do. And then there's a young girl who's the youngest dwarfel, who can't control her magic. And, like, her magic is actually pretty good, but the whole...
She's Thor.
She's basically Thor. She controls thunder. And the whole subplot now becomes about how she can't control her magic, and her magic review is coming up. Like, what? This became a He-Man plot. Because now we're talking about how this young dwarfel is going to be reviewed by Mother Nature, and Mother Nature gets all mad all the time, and so she has to be perfect with her magic, and she can't control it. Like, this has no bearing on the Lord Malice plot whatsoever, so why...
Yeah, I gotta address this. This is probably the weakest part of the movie, is the whole subplot involving the Dwarfels. So, yeah, as you said, the the big tension with them is that the youngest one, Thunderella, who can control the weather, she can't control it for whatever reason, and because of that, she doesn't feel special. It's like, bitch, you have the powers of Storm. What the hell are you talking about? But yeah, she feels insecure, and when they go to see Mother Nature, not only is she chastised for not being able to control her magic properly, but all of them are. And it's like, where did this come from? Like, and
I mean, they kind of should be. It seems like all they do is just stay at their house and occasionally bicker with each other. I mean, are they getting much done? Who knows?
yeah, like, it's weird how they get both too much and yet too little, like, substance for their characters and what's going on with them, because we don't really see the real reason why they're being punished for misusing their powers when we don't really see them misuse their powers. But at the same time, they don't really do anything with them either. Because
I think the problem was that just they had these characters and they were like, we need to make them special somehow, but away from their male counterparts. So it's like, let's give them powers. But then I don't know if they really thought about the ramifications of that, in the sense that I don't know. Later in the story, a lot of them could have used their powers, or a lot of them could have stayed at home because they couldn't. But they didn't use that to the fullest extent of what they could. Because one of them is Storm. She can control the weather. One of them can control the Earth itself. She can move rocks and.
You have an Earthbender. You have an Earthbender on your side, and
right.
The entire reason they're not using their powers.
And a Waterbender. I speak Air Avatar a little.
The entire reason they're not using their powers is because they were yelled at by Mother Nature for fighting. But they're family. Family always fights. Like, I mean, yeah, they throw mud at each other and stuff like that. But that's how it works, and. It just, this entire plot point is weak. It
is, especially with Mother Nature herself, who doesn't really do much of anything except screw up her own creations, and then you realize, oh, well, that's why she gave God powers to these sort of incompetent, ladies. She doesn't think things through very well.
I mean, it's nice that she's voiced by Phyllis Diller.
Yeah.
Which does add more to the role, but like, she's a huge hypocrite because she can't control her own powers, and she's being upset that they can't use their own powers, and this entire thing is stupid. Like, this part of the film, I was kind of rolling my eyes because, like, the main stuff with Lord Malice, I think, is fine. But when you put this into the mix, it's like, this is a bad He-Man episode, or a bad Smurfs episode, or a bad 80s cartoon. It doesn't need to be here. They don't even need the Seven Dwarves. But anyway, Eric, you haven't had a chance to talk. What do you think about this? The Dwarf Elves and Mother Nature and Phyllis Diller and Jar Jar Gavor and
all of it.
It's interesting. Like the elves do, like the dwarf elves do have like interesting powers, but like everyone said, like they don't really do anything with it. And yeah, the whole thing about Mother Nature checking up on them, yeah, we haven't really seen them do anything with it. We didn't even mention the one elf like who controls the night and like spends like 90% of the movie just sleepwalking the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That's the joke.
You suck, Moonbeam.
And I like when like Mother Nature, like she's creating all this stuff, and it's like they're all just like abominations. They're like, please kill me.
They're living puns. They're all living puns.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the duckbill platypus, but that's
that's the deleted scene.
Yeah, really. But it's just so it's so odd. Even like the Mother Nature song is like all. It's all crazy, kind of all over the place. It's
in Phyllis Diller. Now that I think about it, like, I mean, when you're watching that creation song, that entire sequence does not fit with the rest of the film.
I think maybe it was just like they realized they had Phyllis Diller. They were able to get Phyllis Diller, and I guess she's sort of a singer. I don't really know. So they were like, let's give her a song because why not? We paid to have her. Let's use her. And make her character shake her booty. It was cute.
You have this big star, might as well use her, but it doesn't mesh with the film. You essentially have two films here. You have the plot with Lord Malice, and you have Thunderella and Mother Nature, and these two things do not fit into one hole. The square peg does not fit in a round hole, and it just that's the thing that gets me about this film. But I think
is that why she said, I can't use my powers in his domain?
probably, yeah, like Mother Nature can't use her powers in his domain, so they actually can go forth and do stuff. I don't know. This is the weaker part of the film. It's made enjoyable by these voice actors. It's made enjoyable by their antics. It's made enjoyable by a lot of the stuff that these actors and actresses do. But in the end, you could have taken this part out of the film.
Frankly, I think what would have made it more interesting is if they had all recently got their powers, but they didn't know how to control them, and it was during their journey to help Snow White rescue her prince that they all discover the full potential of their powers and gain mastery over it. I think that would have been good for all of them, giving them each, individual character development. Because, honestly, only, I think, two of them have a chance to shine using their powers, and that was about it. It's it makes you wonder why they even came. Because Mother Nature flat out says her magic is, she can't use her magic in Malice's domain. Well, they have her magic, so they can't use their powers. Which explains why they don't use them.
You just retconned the movie.
Yeah, it explains why they can't use it, but it just makes them useless in the whole scheme of things. Because
why bring them?
Yeah, because Snow White does more than they do.
They're there for morale. They give morale.
Pretty much.
Now the
They make sandwiches.
Now the last part of the movie is basically them going into Lord Malice's domain, to
storm
take
the castle.
They gotta storm the castle, and they want to get back the prince. Along the way, they meet this Orko-looking creature who helps them out, and it's pretty obvious that this is the prince. The entire time, I'm like, he's gonna be the prince, isn't he? He's
what
the
makes
prince.
you say that? It's obviously Orko with legs and a bad cold.
But yeah, he helps them out. This creature helps them out through many different obstacles, and along the way, he just, for no reason, he seemingly helps them out, and I'm just like, yeah, that's the prince. And he helps them out until he basically fends off some evil creatures while they go to the castle, and at the end of the day, at the end of the movie, it's Snow White versus Lord Malice, and lo and behold, it's Orko who comes in to save the day, and yet it turns out that's the prince, which is why he's been coming in to help all the time.
Yeah, I gotta say, the whole thing with the prince doesn't make sense. Because, like I said, Malice has the power to kill someone with his laser eyes, but all he does is knock him out and turns him into that weird deformed thing. And he doesn't even keep him within his domain. He doesn't brainwash him into becoming a servant or anything like that. The prince just goes off on his own and kind of helps Snow White off on the sidelines. He doesn't even attempt to tell her that it's really him. They don't know.
He doesn't even try to write anything or anything.
I had an epiphany. Well, first of all, I don't think he could tell her because he couldn't talk. All he could do is just go, "Rrr." But anyway, have any of you, besides Eric, because I know I showed it to you, have either of you two seen Lady Hawk?
No.
I've heard of it.
I have, but go on.
Right. Well, yeah, I showed it to you. It's a good date movie. Anyway, to make a long story short, it's a story of these two who were in love, but this guy fell in love with this other guy fell in love with the lady and placed a curse on them, where basically, during the day she is a hawk, and during the night he is a wolf. And while one is in the animal form, the other's in the human form. So it's basically
oh, is that the one? Is that the one Spoonie reviewed?
No, that was different.
Always together, never apart. So maybe that's sort of what he was doing there. I'm gonna mess you up, and I could probably restrain you, which I should, but I didn't. But I'll mess you up so you can't help, and completely. You can only help a little.
it's not really explained. It would be nice if it was like explained like in JoJo, because in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there's the second part. There are 4 villains who they could outright destroy them, but like they're like, you know what? I have all this power. Let me give you a fighting chance. Let me.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. For that, I think they're just being cocky. They're literally just being cocky. Like, I could kill you, but I don't feel like it. There's no fun in that. Right?
But I mean, I think it was more fun in JoJo's case, because what happens is like they give you a lot of restrictions. They want to play a game that, you know, because I could kill you. I have all this power, but I want to make it fun. And that seems to be what Malice is doing, maybe, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming maybe the prince was like vain in a sense, and turning him into something ugly like destroyed his morale or something. Like, he still had enough sense that he wanted to, you know, protect his fiance, but at the same time, like when he has the chance to join her and the dwarf elves, like as soon as he sees his reflection, he's like, no, and he runs away. And
yeah, he smashes his reflection. Well, he steps on it in the puddle that he sees, and just
the most obvious clue that he's the prince.
He's so vain. He probably thinks this movie's about him.
So it all ends up with a big climactic battle against Lord Malice, and he ends up he transforms into a dragon, but ends up getting turned into stone at
by
the same
a cloak.
By a cloak.
That's a legit cool weapon or device.
You mean Deus Ex Machina?
I still think it's cool.
No, it's cool, but this cloak doesn't come up at all during the movie. We do not see it until the very end at the climax, when it's revealed he's been turning a lot of the minions in the palace into stone just for the heck of it. And that's what he intended to do with Snow White all along, was to capture her, bring her to the palace, and basically turn her into a stone statue, like a trophy of his success. Like, there is nothing that builds up to that cloak.
And it's also kind of weird how, like, he gets hit with the cloak, but he slowly turns into a dragon, so you're like, oh, he's immune to the cloak, but then he turns into stone. It's like, what?
You know, how I see it is just that, like, maybe he was trying to fight it off with his magic, like his own magic, but the magic of the cloak was too powerful, and then he got struck by lightning, so maybe it was just God being like, stop.
He's like, I grow tired of this.
And from that I'm gonna make a giant dragon statue with a man's head.
And so the film ends with, him turning into stone. We have the prince turning back to normal, and the dwarf elves and Thunderella get their magic back, and Mother Nature is just like, oh, what the hey, let me come over now and save the day. And like, it's kind of an anticlimactic ending, but what I like about this climax is kind of the visuals of the castle and kind of what they do with the atmosphere, and Lord Malice just hamming it up at the end. And there's a point where he actually turns into the prince, and he's just like, okay, well, come over here and I'll turn you to stone. Very obviously evil. Very.
Yeah. I have to say, I do enjoy, I don't know the actor who plays the prince, but it is kind of funny to hear, like, another person pretended to be Malcolm McDowell like that. It's good.
And so, like, that part, like, nowhere during the climax was I fooled by any of the twists, but I think it's a fun climax, and I think it's enjoyable. I think what it does is the bare minimum of keeping me entertained. It's not really clever. It's not really super intelligent, but it's fun. And I think that sums this movie up. It's not something that is going to really... it's not something that's going to do anything more than entertain. It has its problems. It has its quirks. But at the end of the day, what it does is it's fun to watch. And even though I bitched about, like, the middle part with the dwarf elves and all the stuff that they do, I still had fun watching it. And I think that's something I can say more than the first few films in Elseworlds Month. Like, I did not enjoy watching Mirror Mirror. I did not enjoy watching Snow White and the Huntsman. I enjoyed most of Huntsman Winter's War, with the exception of a few things. And I think that Huntsman Winter's War is a better film than this, but this is just entertaining throughout because of the decisions that they made, because of the animation style and the time it was made, because of the voice actors that they were able to get in such a low budget film, and such, like, there are things about this that really entertain, even more so than the critical elements. And I always come back to this, but it's the Too Fast, Too Furious kind of thing. Too Fast, Too Furious is dumb fun. Just like this. Mm-hmm. It's something that you turn off your brain to watch. Like, it's not the best thing ever, but it's still enjoyable. It's still fun to watch. And I think what I really love about this film is it never really takes itself too seriously. Like, it pokes fun at itself. You have a rapping owl who, like, he goes into he goes George of the Jungle style into a tree. You have Lord Malice, who is over-the-top evil. Like, it's a He-Man cartoon. It never really takes itself too seriously. It's cheesy, but it's fun, and I think that's the entertainment value of it. Kat, what are your thoughts on this film?
Well, I mean, I may be biased just because, again, I grew up with this film, but even watching it now as an adult, I still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Like, obviously, I see a lot more of the flaws now. Definitely the weakest parts are, the music, the characterization, the animation, but honestly, the rest of it is pretty damn good, and in some ways kind of superior to the Disney version, because, like, Snow White, who is easily the second most blandest Disney princess, has a little more characterization in this movie. She is definitely way more active. Even the prince, who, despite still being somewhat bland, he gets more to do. Like, in this version, you actually see them have to actively work for their happy ending, and also being directly responsible for taking down the bad guy. And the dwarf elves, while they're mostly useless in the scheme of things, they still are, aesthetically better than the original dwarves, and they get a little more development than the original ones did, because I don't think they even had any development or any sort of character arc or anything like that. And of course, the villain, you gotta love the villain. I mean, come on. Malcolm McDowell, that's all you need to say. And, I mean, the voice acting for the most part is pretty good, too. So, I mean, there are a lot of good things to like about this movie, and honestly, I think in terms of a sequel to Snow White, this is probably as good as we're gonna get, unless Disney decides to make their own, but we've seen them make their sequels to their stuff before. We know how bad it can get. So, honestly, at the moment, like, out of all the things I've seen, this is at the top of my list of stuff that is best for Snow White. Oh, one last thing I wanted to mention, since we're at final thoughts. I told you this, Zen, but I don't think I told Eric or Georgia this. I was looking up all the voice actors, and of course, we know most of them. They're pretty well-known names. The voice actress who voices Snow White, her name is Irene Cara. She's a fairly well-known singer and everything, but she's also known for voicing another Disney princess ripoff, one that you are all very familiar with, and you're all gonna figure out instantly when I give you this hint. Whee!
Oh my god.
Oh god.
No way.
Yes, she voices Beauty in that ripoff of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh god.
I'm doing the gasp right now. Holy shit! Are you serious? Are you sure? Really?
Yes, I looked it up.
How did you go from voicing Snow White to
Beauty? Oh my god! Wow. Wow. I think I need to go watch it again. By the way.
So, Georgia, what are your final thoughts on this film?
I mean, honestly, everybody kind of said what I was gonna say. Like you and Kat both did. I am totally biased. I remember growing up with it. That and the Dark Crystal were like, and a couple other things were what I would get at the Blockbuster the most. I remember the toys back in the day, the little dolls they were trying to, hawk. I love this movie, and I know it's totally flawed. It's, one of those oldish animated movies where they reuse the same animated cycle, and like it's totally obvious. And I know there's some weak points. Honestly, my weakest point is really the stuff with Batso and Scowl. They're not that entertaining. I mean, I get why they're there. It's a really little kids movie, but still. And it would have been cooler if we could see the dwarf elves use their powers more, and not only more, but more often, but more effectively. But I love this movie. I think it's harmless. I think it's fun. I think it's sweet. You could definitely show it to any little cousins you have. I love this movie.
All right, and finally, Eric.
Like everyone said, this movie is, for the most part, this movie is harmless. I mean, I wish the music was a little
Mostly
bit
harmless.
Mostly.
I wish the music was a little bit more interesting, because I'm kind of a sucker for musicals. So I wish it was better. But everything else is actually pretty decent. I mean, I guess the stuff with the Mother Nature is okay because of the, I guess with the visual puns and stuff, and yeah, I kind of like puns, but I do like the fact that that Snow White and the Prince are actually a lot more active as far as like everyone said, with their trying to get their happily ever after, unlike some of the other Snow White films that we've seen in the past. But although in Mirror Mirror, at least Snow White actually learned how to sword fight, but I mean, I think it's like all the other stuff kind of makes up for, I guess, for the lack of music. So it is overall it is a very enjoyable film.
I want to actually ask you guys just a question before we wrap up. I mean, this is, I don't know, probably not the most interesting question, but what's your favorite song from the movie?
I'll go last. You guys go first.
Okay.
Honestly, I think all the music in this sucks, to be quite honest.
I know, but if you had to pick one, honestly, for me, I'd probably pick the end credit song that Irene Cara does. It's very cute. It's very sweet.
It's alright. I mean, it's your typical 90s pop ballad that they used to always put at the end of every, animated film back in the day. I mean, it's okay. It's nothing special. I guess in terms of the film itself, the best one is Thunderella's song. I mean, it's still somewhat out of place, but at least it gives you insight into her character, and it's somewhat uplifting and, a little catchy. So I guess in terms of, how well constructed the song was, yeah, Thunderella's song is best. That's my opinion anyway.
Okay.
And Eric, what do you think?
I hate to say this, I kind of like the Mother Nature one, because at least it's kind of upbeat and kind of dancey, and I
like that too, and seeing her dance moves.
Yes. Maybe that's what does it. I don't know.
I think I know what Zenith's answer is going to be.
I like the Rapping Owl song.
You would.
I knew it. I see. Here's the thing. This was when we started watching it with Kat. The first bits I thought was pretty good. It was somewhat generic, but for the most part, I was like, all right, this is okay. It was nothing I thought really to write home about, but I'm just like, you know what, this is fun. I like Lord Malice. And then the rapping owl bit started, and I'm like, this is amazing. I know it's bad. I probably should list it as the worst, but that's my favorite.
No, the words are great. They're they're so inoffensive. Even Will Smith would just be like, gangsta,
Least favorite, probably Mother Nature, even though I like Phyllis Diller singing, but she's not singing for the most part. She's just saying stuff, and then stuff happens. It doesn't really feel that much like a song to me.
I hear you.
With that being said, I think this movie is one of those that can be enjoyed by anyone, whether you like it or not, whether you're a kid or an adult. I compare this to something like Rock-a-Doodle. Rock-a-Doodle is it's a bad film, but it's enjoyable, and it's in this same vein where you have a lot of problems, some minor, some major, but at the end of the day, it's not going to harm you to watch it. It's fluff. It's fun. It's entertaining, despite its flaws, and that's what this is to me. It's something that I wouldn't mind watching again, but I'd like to have a beer present when I watch it, something to a bad movie marathon, like when we were watching the Beauty and the Beast with that Phalis reviewed. That movie is very weird. Anyway,
I still can't believe that's her. Now I gotta go rewatch it. Like, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was only like, yeah, because I think like she did the Beauty role only 2 years after Happily Ever After, so it's like the quality of her voice must have went down a bit. I'm guessing.
Or she was just disappointed in herself.
or she had a bad director. That could also be it. So
A director who's completely useless now.
So, guys, we have just finished Elseworlds Month.
Yay.
Hooray!
Congrats.
This was a fun little experiment, and while we hit some very bad duds, I think we hit some pretty good ones near the end. And maybe not next year, but like in the future, I would like to bring this back for another segment. But for
I would
now,
like to do another one.
I do want to do another one, but for now, we're going to be moving forward with the 60s. Our next movie is Toby Tyler, which
Groovy.
is about someone who wants to escape to the circus. And this is one of those ones that we're not going to find online. The only place that I found a couple different copies. One was like I can't remember what actually happened with the copy that I tried to find, but it was not the best. I think this was one that was dubbed over with another language. Unfortunately, it was one of those. So the only avenue that we have to watch this movie is unfortunately from Disney's YouTube service. And I say unfortunate because there are problems with this service. Like, I think it's fine to pay, like, it's only $3 for a movie, or it's like $6 for a movie. But it doesn't always recognize that you've paid that money for the movie. And when the movie is bad, I don't want to keep spending money to refresh the page. You essentially have to watch it right away, otherwise it glitches. It's a very glitchy service.
That sucks.
So we're going to watch Toby Tyler next, and it stars Arliss.
Ugh.
And Arliss going to the circus, and it's using a service that I don't like. So I might not be as happy next time, but we'll see. We're going back to 60s cheese, and as we move forward, movies will be easier to find. With all of that being said, I am Zenith Rule.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I am Eric Y2 Staller.
And I used to have a name. I'm Gigi, but now I don't know. The girl has no name.
The girl with no name.
Thank you for having me, by the way. I had a great time.
No, thank you for coming on. This was fun, and I'm happy to have you aboard for this, because I know it meant a lot to you.
Aw, thank you. And yeah, if you ever want me back, I'd be more than happy to. Let's do a real Disney movie.
In any case, remember, guys, next time you see an owl, it might just start rapping.
In which case, kill it.
They are not what they seem. Well, Twin Peaks joke there.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Watch out for them owls. They be rapping in the hills.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.